Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I think the ministry has adequately explained to us the economic situation, that the growth of the economy is slowing down from 6.5% to 4.0%. We are also informed that gross domestic product is also slowing down. Well, it's growing by 4%, but instead of 6.5%, it's going down by 4.0% in 2019. Also, the local funds, Gambia local funds, we are told is not sufficient to cater for the recurrent expenditure. That, in fact, we are in deficit. And therefore, the conclusion of the minister was that we need to borrow to fill the gap. Honorable Speaker, in page 12 of the minister's statement, we are told that we will have less revenue and grants in 2020 compared to 2029. And by my own calculation, the difference will be about $1 billion. And on page 13, on the same report, the total expenditure and net lending shall be greater from $28 billion to $30 billion, which is about 4% of the bulk of that increment, which is due to debt interest payments. Now, we are also told that 40% of government's tax revenue in 2020, which will be about $4,648,000,000, shall be debt interest payment. Because last year, which is 2019, I believe, 26% or $2,702,000,000 of tax revenues for 2019 has now increased to $4.64 billion for debt repayment. So, Honorable Speaker, this means that despite that we are receiving less revenues, we are still bent on borrowing more just to be able to spend more. And we said we are in a debt trap or in a debt distress. So if we want to reduce our debt, but yet still we are thinking of taking more debts, I'm not sure whether we are not defeating the policy. Because according to the minister, the solution is to borrow more money domestically than we do in 2019. And I believe the policy was to reduce domestic borrowing. But it looks like $3.9 billion will be borrowed to finance the deficit. My understanding is also that we are going to progressively reduce domestic borrowing with a view to lowering it to an acceptable level that will allow the commercial banks to have more savings to be able to give to investors to boost production, especially in the productive base. And if that is the reason, but we are taking more domestic debts this year, then I'm not sure whether we are progressing forward. I think we are, in fact, reversing. Yes. So if you go to the statement, Honorable Speaker, and I will quote that, for 2019, the projected budget support from the European Union, EU, and the World Bank, which comprises the bulk of our estimated support for this year, have not materialized as at end September. So we need explanation on that. What has actually happened, why that support has not been materialized? Is it that there are conditions that were attached? What have we not done to meet some of those conditions? Those are very important questions that we want answers for. And my fear has always been that we will have donor weariness, and therefore we cannot continue to depend on donor support. So instead of addressing the real problem of our economy, we keep on wanting to borrow more and more to meet our deficits. Honorable Speaker, I think that the re-export trade should be digitalized, because from our engagement with some of the partners, they think that it is going well, but that what is lacking is to ensure that we have a chip on these vehicles that are engaged in transporting goods to other countries. And that will increase our income on re-export trade, especially the foreign exchange dimension. Honorable Speaker, I'll be interested to know also what development policy, what is the target that we have realized? I'll be interested to know that, which has given rise to what you call slippages. The minister, like the member, my colleague has said, we need more explanation on those slippages. What are responsible for that? Honorable Speaker, legal aid agency have not been able to capture the allocation for legal aid agency, which have not been substantial over the years, and it has hampered their operations, as they said to us. So I was thinking that this time around, we'll be able to capture them, because if they are not properly handled, it means that they'll not be able to perform. And they are playing some role, an oversight role sort of, on the judiciary. So if they don't have vehicles and important things like that, they'll not be able to perform properly. Honorable Speaker, on taxation, gross taxation, we discussed here, the NGOs. It looks like they are the only ones who are complaining of gross taxation. And I could not capture it in the budget. Where in the budget do you have gross taxation? Because I've not seen it anywhere. When I checked the revenue side, I've seen all these taxes, but I've not seen anything like gross taxation, especially on page 3. Page 3 and page 5. Nothing like gross taxation. I don't know where it is captured, because only the NGOs are complaining that they are being taxed on everything that they receive, including their salaries and allowances. And this has been a long-standing thing, which has been hampering their operations and affecting their target communities. Honorable Speaker, the TRRC has the dimension of reparations, and I have not captured anything on reparations. I believe that we need to create a budget line for reparations so that the international community takes us seriously, that we are really ready for giving reparations to our victims. Because without a budget line, I don't think anybody will take us seriously. So I seem to accept the minister's conclusion that for us to achieve and sustain microeconomic stability and the government's primary objective of reducing poverty and improving basic service delivery for all, we should be committed to fiscal discipline. But this budget that I am seeing, I have not seen that to be very well demonstrated, fiscal discipline. Because all these allowances that my colleagues are talking about do not seem to show that. Many ministries are putting a lot of allowances. Sometimes even the allowances seem to be more than the salaries. That's kind of funny. So in my view, Honorable Speaker, if we really want this budget to serve as a useful tool to achieve what the minister says, macroeconomic stability, we should utilize Section 27 of the Public Finance Act to appoint temporarily a team of staff, technical staff, like it is said, to be able to look into some of these things. Maybe this year, maybe we may be late, but next year, we should be able to put that into operation. So I thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the time. Thank you.